Hello to everyone who is watching this Q&A session for the short drama Refugee featured in the 15th Charity Refugee Film Festival. This is Suzanne from UNHCR Hong Kong, and we have Juan Antonio Moreno, the film director, here with us to share more about how this escape story of two refugee children evolved. This year, the message of the World Refugee Day is whoever, wherever, whenever. Everyone has a right to seek safety. This drama has given audiences the chance to understand why providing safe access and ensuring the right to seek asylum is essential to refugees around the world. So we have a number of questions we would like to ask Juan. The first thing is, how did your team come up with an idea of telling the story of refugee children? Because I believe there must be a lot of research behind before you start developing this story plot. So can you share with us how did you get this idea of writing and directing about refugee children's story?
Well, thank you very much to the beginner. For me, it's a pleasure and honor to participate with all of you in this Q&A. I appreciate so much this time with all of you, and thank you very much to select the short film Refugee. Well, the idea of this short film was born maybe 15 years ago, because my team and me, we were working with refugee people in Balkans, in Afghanistan, in Sierra Leone, in Africa, in the Sahara refugee camp in the Sahara Desert. And we know very well the stories of refugee people and children. Well, in Spain, two years ago, we celebrate the 40 years of asylum right in Spain. And the Spanish Commission for Refugee People proposed me to create a short film to celebrate and remember the asylum right for Spain and for all around the world. And the idea was to connect two stories of two children, Destiny and Paulina. They are real refugees in a fiction story with real elements. And we filmed this story in Madrid, in a real refugee center. And maybe there is a part of me in this story, because when I never fortunate I wasn't a refugee. I am fortunate to live in Spain in a safe country. But I remember the stories of my grandparents in Extremadura during the civil war in Spain. And I wanted to connect the story of the Spanish refugee during the civil war in Spain, now 86 years ago, with the stories of the refugees now in the present.
Yeah. I can also see the strong connection between like having Spanish refugees fleeing from the civil war in Spain and the connection with other refugees coming to Spain right now inside the film. So it's kind of like we are a shared humanity that no matter where we are from, we may have the experience with refugee issues, or we may also be one day facing the same problem. So it's really just very inspiring to hear that because of your refugee background, and now you are making this wonderful short video about refugee experience. And could you also just let us know a little bit more about your personal story, if you don't mind? Like, you talk about your grandparents, they escaped from Spain during the Civil War, and which country have you arrived, and when did your family move back to Spain?
My grandparents living during the Civil War in Spain, suffering the dictator of in Spain, but many people went out to France and Mexico, Ibero American, and Argentina, and I heard the stories of another people, and the people who lived in Spain during the Civil War was very, very, very hard during 40 years. 40 years in Spain. After 1939, it was the end of the Civil War until 1975, when Franco passed away, and it was a very hard time for my country. For that reason, I wanted to connect this story. And my grandfather mainly told me many stories about the Civil War when he was child, and my land. I was born in Extremadura, a very poor region in Spain, and I know very well the reality of the post-war.
Yeah, that's why you care about refugees and these people who are often forgotten by the world, because we have so many different focuses, and like politics are always catching the headlines in the news, and that's why we need more of these films or short videos to really show how important it is for us to stand with refugees. And this is also one of the message we want to bring out in our Refugee Film Festival, just to remind people that there are like many people who are really resilient and they are very talented, just like you directing films and showing the world how serious the refugee crisis is. And I think one of the questions also from my colleagues would be, they find that this film has a very mysterious beginning. Like we only understand what is going on later, because at first we can only see two children fleeing hand in hand, sneakily trying to escape from the night watch. So this very interesting start of the story has really made us become very curious about what will happen next. So why did you choose to tell the story in this way?
Thank you very much for this question. And the stories of all the refugees, all the stories are a drama, are tragedy, and about mainly for children, people who escaped from their country, and now when they enter in a new country, they live in a refugee center with another people that never they have seen in their life, and is I was living in a refugee center 2 years ago to tell a future documentary films called Welcome to Spain. And I know very well and I wrote the short film Refugee at the same time. So I knew very well the life, the daily life in a refugee center for the children people. And it's very important, the staff of the refugee center, to care mainly the dreams, the emotions, the happiness of the children during these days. So I try to I try to tell the story of refugee like a mystery, like a terror film at the beginner, and step by step discovering the stories of these children and discovering this hair, you know.
Yeah, I think you also mentioned that the two protagonists, they are real refugee children, and it is a real reception center as well. So to me, it's just very fascinating to see how you merge like the real things and drama together. It's not a documentary, but you know some parts of their experiences and their emotions are real here. And that's why it's really a very precious piece of short video we can feature in our film festival. And it's really very powerful when we watch it, even though it's just 15 minutes, but it has a very strong impact that we all remember after watching. And just a side note for our audiences, around half of the refugees in the world are under the age of 18, and they are particularly vulnerable as they may have witnessed or experienced violence at their home countries. And they are also at risk of abuse and exploitations during their fleeing journeys or while they are living in a new country in exile. So for children who are separated from their parents, they have even higher risks of facing exploitations or human trafficking. So that's why we deserve more of the world's attention and support towards refugees, including refugee children. And back to our next question for Juan. As we know that the refugee children inside are real refugee, was it the intention you had when you were planning to film this video? Is it like you have intended to find real refugee children from the reception centers to be the protagonist, or have you ever thought of like finding children actors to just take these roles? Or is it kind of like if you find refugee children to play these roles, it's also like a tool to empower them to express their emotions or sorrows and to represent refugees? Is it what you have planned in the first place?
My plan, I think that the most important for refugee people when in a new country is to feel safe, and after to be able to express in all inside. They happen it inside of the people. And my plan in all my films have been hearing their stories with my hair open, and me and all my team. I think that it's very human being to hear the people and hear all the emotions.
So what were the refugee children's reaction when you have chosen who to be Destiny and who to be Paulina? Were they very excited that they can take up the roles to play in your video? Or were they also very nervous? How was their reaction like?
During the shooting?
Yeah, during the shooting or after you let them know that they can take part in your video?
Yeah. Paulina and Destiny and their families could see the film after in Madrid and in Seville, and wow, Paulina's family for Paulina's family was very impact because they are refugee and they are starting their new life in Madrid, in Spain, and was very impacting for them. And Paulina is she's very happy and very lighting girl, but when she saw in the screen, she was silent all the time. I remember she expression. And Destiny also is he is very nervous, very he want to acting very well, very he's a very powerful boy. He's amazing. And I remember I was to recording his voice in the second time after the shooting, and he's a refugee, but I think that he could be a big actor and great actor.
Yes.
He's an amazing.
Yes. I also agree, like the two actor and actress, they are both like really showing the emotions through their faces and voice, a very, very powerful voice. We can hear Destiny's voice was trembling when he was talking about the fleeing journey with the animation, like telling about his nightmare. So during the nightmare, we heard a lot of the suffering of Destiny with his mother and siblings. So that part was really powerful. And for these two children, I think it's also a very good experience to them to just have the opportunity to represent refugee children. And this short video has reached to the other parts of the world in Hong Kong and in Macau as well. So yeah, I also hope to let them know that people from all different parts of the world care about them, and we all appreciate so much of their hard work here. And my next question is, inside the film, Destiny was afraid that he would have to go back to his home country, and that's why he was escaping with his friend. And I think having this fear is quite common among refugee children, because many of them are scared that they have to go back home and face the war or conflict again. So I know that you have collaboration with the Spanish Commission for Refugees to produce this film. And have you also learned about any similar stories, maybe from the commission or from the reception centers? Have you heard of stories about other children who are also constantly very scared of being sent back to their home?
Yeah, sometimes happens. Sometimes the application for refugee people in my country are denegated, and you know, it's a real drama when their family have to come back or their country, or they have to leave Spain to go to another countries in Europe, you know, and it's a true drama, because the people, refugee people don't know what happening with, and sometimes they have only trust in the life, in God, and you know, they don't have the strong support.
Yeah, I think many of the refugee children, they have really endured a lot, and they are very traumatized by the things they have seen or experienced. For example, in the recent emergency due to the war in Ukraine, we have also seen a lot of children who are escaping with their mothers, or in some cases, they are being forced to flee alone. So actually, in UNHCR, we just to sign up for audiences, we have also set up the Children and Family Protection Support Hubs, namely Blue Dots. This is our collaboration with UNICEF to help provide support to children and others who have special needs. And in our Refugee Film Festival in Hong Kong, we have also set up a fundraising goal this year to be 200,000 Hong Kong dollars. And we want to utilize the money to help UNHCR to respond to global emergency operations, such as providing psychological support to 250 children who have suffered through crises like the one in Ukraine. And we can also provide refugee children and the others with access to outreach activities and other child-friendly spaces. And I believe this is so important to children because they usually cannot really express themselves so well, but they may have really a lot of traumas inside their minds, and they need somebody to talk to. And here we would also like to ask Juan about the later part of the story, because we see at the end of the film, Destiny followed his mother to leave the reception center inside the film. And I think there are just a lot of encounters like this at the reception center. Have you ever talked to the workers at the center about how do they take care of refugee children who are from such a diverse background? Because they are coming from many different countries. All the children, they have different cultures and customs. How do the Spanish workers at the center know how to take care of them, and how maybe they don't even speak Spanish at first, or they don't speak English? How do they really slowly help the children to adapt to the life in Spain or to get the support they need?
Yeah, the situation is very, very inspiring for all the human being. I filmed it Welcome to Spain, the future film documentary that I told you before, and about the shock cultural, no, between different people from different countries, with a Spanish worker, with the Spanish staff in the reception center for refugee. And also there are funny stories, and there are comedy, there are life, not only dark and drama. And in my experience, and like film director, I try to show this life, because I think that refugee people also is very rich experience for my country, for my citizenship, for my cities in Spain. And I hope that the audience feel that the refugee people, they need support, but also they are liked people for our societies. Sorry.
Yes. We have to. I think this is a very important point, that like refugees can come from everywhere, like different parts of the world, but in the end, we are all just human beings, right? Like we share our emotions and we can build connections with people, even we don't speak the same language. So I think this is a very beautiful thing to have in humanity as well, that we can really understand the others and feel for the others. And another question also surrounding this topic would be, because the workers inside the reception centers, they have been also really spend lots of time with children who will just stay for a temporarily short period. So people come and go and come and go, and this cycle just repeats itself. So I guess it could be quite hard for the workers to deal with their personal emotions as well. Have you got chance to also talk to those people who work to support refugees at the center?
These people are amazing. The workers who work with refugee people are amazing. I know very well, and my brother-in-law worked with them in a reception center also in Madrid, and it's very, very hard. And I admire their job. It's very, very inspiring, and they have all my recognition for all workers with refugee people.
Are they working like non-stop, like 24 hours, 7 days? They are taking care of them.
Yeah. They,
oh my God.
It's amazing. Yeah. They are like the new family, no?
Yeah, they're like their parents.
Yeah, and sadly, like you told, they enter new people and leave another refugee people all the time. The reception center are leaving is wow. You have to be a strong and very special human being to work with the refugee people.
Yes, especially when those refugees and kids, they have really endured a lot and experienced a lot of the horrible things back home. And these people really need a lot of attention and special care as well. So just like we have shared about the fear of being pushed back home, and here during the World Refugee Day on the 20th of June, we would also like to reiterate the message that we should ensure there will be no pushback because people should never be forced to return to a country if their life or freedom may be threatened. And this is also one of the messages we would like to advocate through the screening of this amazing short video. And I hope audiences can also understand why it's so important to just provide these people with safe access and the right to seek asylum in a new country. And I think there is also another thing that is very moving and inside the film that we can see is that when the lady talks about her own fleeing experience, the lady at the reception center, she shared with the two children, Destiny and Paulina, that she was also facing the same situation. And she also talked about refugee crisis beyond Europe, including we had seen some clips showing how children escaped from Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and many other countries in the world. So I think this part has a really impactful memory to most of the audiences, and we all share the same fears and sorrows. So I know that you have a very personal connection to all these emotions as well, as you mentioned that your family was also once refugee family, and then you have heard lots of stories from your grandfather. So I'm just curious because, as you said, many of the Spanish families, they may have similar stories like this. Do you think in Spain, is it like an easy thing to talk about refugees, or how do you think the situation there is? Like, are people more open to this topic? Do you think people are able to relate to their personal family history with this global refugee crisis?
Well, my country and Spanish people are, the majority of people are open to help and to receive the refugee people. There are another part to refugees, and they feel fear, but Spanish society is they connected very well with the situation of refugee people.
That's a good thing to hear. At least people understand from their personal family backgrounds with this situation with other refugees coming to the country.
Yeah, I feel proud of my country. We need to improve, of course, but I feel proud of my society.
Yeah, and right now, while we have like welcoming countries like Spain and many other parts of the world, they have been really open up their countries to accept refugees. Like as we can see from the Ukraine situation, that many more countries are becoming more open to refugees to support these people who are forced to flee their homes. It's also worth noting that the latest displacement figure has already reached to 100 million this year, which means there have been 100 million people forced to flee from their homes due to the war in Ukraine and also other conflicts across the globe. So I think it is just very important to remember that this is a crisis we are all facing together. And globally, it's like 1% of people, 1% of people have been forced to leave their homes, and this can happen to any one of us. And that's why I think it's a very good time for us to show more empathy and take more actions to support displaced people from all countries. And it's very nice to connect with you here, Juan, like connecting people from different parts of the countries to just tell the message that we should really show more care and try to do as much as we can from our own position to support refugees. And I think one more message about facing discrimination. Although in the movie it doesn't really show about discrimination inside, because they are very fortunate to have a shelter, to have a reception center in which people are very kind to them. But we know that many refugees may also face discrimination when they enter a new country to seek for safety. So we want to remind people that it's also vital to make sure people are not discriminated against at borders. Because before Destiny or Paulina arrived in the refugee reception centers, they must have passed through lots of challenges in order to cross the border and to really seek for help. So I think in the first place, it's just very important to just remain the border open and allow all the applications for refugee status to be given with fair consideration, regardless of factors like race, religion, or gender, or country of origin. No matter where people are from, they should have the chance to seek safety. And that's a very important message we also want to bring out. So I think the last question we have for Juan would be to see if there is anything you think audiences can do after watching this video. What do you hope them to contribute to support refugees around the world?
I hope that the audience with this film and other films of my team and me open their heart and open their eye and heart to feel empathy with another human being, because everybody, we could be refugee, we don't know, and everybody, we all are human beings.
Yes. And I know that you have this short video and also you have directed Welcome to Spain, another documentary. So do you have any future plans? What other refugee movies you are working on that you can share with us as a final remark that we can look forward to?
Yeah, not now. Now we are writing a fiction film, and it's a different story. But because I was filming during the last 15 years about refugee stories, and now I need to write about a more personal story.
Yeah, and so you have really worked on this topic for really over a decade, like 15 years, you said. Amazing. Yeah, we love this short video, and we will try to also explore other videos and films that you have directed and see whether we have other opportunities to include your film in the future in our festival and continue to just spread the message about providing safety for refugees and support them in our capacity.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So thank you, Juan, for all this wonderful sharing. And we also wish you all the best for your other projects, no matter it's about refugees or other people that we should also care about, because we are just, as you said, like we are just human beings. We just get connected and support each other. And it's important for us to work together and to promote the cause of supporting refugees. And for people who are watching this video, if you would like to just learn more about other refugee stories or about our work in UNHCR, you can also visit unhcr.org/HK. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And it's very lovely to have Juan here sharing all this with us.